Para po sa presentation outline. So yung una po is decision making as manager, types of decision situations, the decision making process. Next, approaches in solving problems, quantitative and qualitative evaluations, and quantitative models for decision making. Next.
Good day po. For decision making, the process of identifying and choosing alternative courses of action in a manner appropriate to the demands of the situation. So una po, yung decision making as a manager, nakapaloob po dito yung certainty, risk, and uncertainty. For certainty po, the ideal situation for making decision is one of certainty. That is a situation in which a manager can make accurate decision because of outcome of every alternative is known. Ang bali po dito, yung managerial decision po, alam niya na po yung outcome ng every decision na gagawin niya. Tsaka po yung parang pinaka-problem po na kinakaharap niya ay known na rin po. Then for the risk, the decision maker is able to estimate the likelihood of a certain alternatives or outcomes. Under the condition of risk, managers have historical data that allows them to assign probabilities to different alternatives. Example naman po dito, halimbawa po, para pong visualize po natin siya, halimbawa po, may-ari po kayo ng resort at medyo pong magdagdag ng, at gusto pong magdagdag ng another swimming pool. Bali, papasok po dito yung mga historical data like kung gaano po kadaming yung kung gaano po kadami yung outcome na ay income na pinoproduce ng isang swimming pool po dun sa resort. Bali po dito, importante po yung probabilities para po sa pagdedesisyon. Then for uncertainty, managers do face decision-making situation of uncertainty. Under conditions of certainty, the choice of alternative is influenced by limited amount of information available to the decision maker. Dito naman po, may tatlo pong sa uncertainty po, meron po siyang tatlong types. Yung una po ay yung maximax, which is pinipili po nung manager yung pinaka magandang outcome. Then for the maximum naman po, the next rule sa pagdedesisyon sa uncertainty, ang ginagawa naman po ng manager ay tinitignan niya po yung pinaka maganda dun sa worst case scenario para po limited po yung losses.
Sandali, saan nyo pinagkukuha yung mga reference nyo, Kelvin?
Po? Dun lang din po sa sir, dun po sa pinagkuhanan nyo.
Sa internet?
Sinerch lang po namin yung, yung Dr. Muhammad Ensan po ba yun? Opo.
Kasi ba yun, kompleto naman yan sa internet, no? Sige.
Opo.
Okay, thank you.
Tapos po, yung third naman po, minimax, tinitignan po yung worst case potential loss. The next slide, please.
Potential loss?
Opo. Types of decision situations, program and non-program. So, basahin ko muna po. Decisions are programmed to extent that they are repetitive and routine, and to the extent that a definite approach has been worked out for handling them. Because the problem is well structured, the manager doesn't have to go to the trouble and expense of going through an involved decision process. Dahil dito po, katulad lang po ng pinakauna, noon na po yung problem niya at well structured na po. Dahil po meaning po ng well structured problem po is straightforward po yung pinaka-problem. Then, kaya magka-come up po sa program decision na normal na po na na-encounter ng isang company. Next, please. Non-program decisions, unique and non-recurring. When a manager confronts a poorly structured problem or one that is unique, there is no cut and dry solution. It requires a custom-made response though through non-program decision making. So yung non-program naman po, ito po yung ano, not all problems that manager face are well structured and solvable. Ah, di po siya familiar, hindi pa po siya, ay never pa po siyang encountered ng manager kaya magka-come up po siya sa ano, sa non-program decision na may risk. Next please. The decision making process. So for the first ano po, diagnose the problem. A problem exists when there is a difference between the actual situation and desired situation. Doon po sa size po na may kinote po na identification of the problem is tantamount to having the problem outsolved. So, ano po, katulad po nung iba po, pag nagsisolve po tayo ng, ano, ng math problem, titignan po muna natin yung, ano, yung parang kukunin po, yung pinaka-problem po dun sa, ano, na need to solve, para po yung mag-come up po tayo dun sa solution. Number 2, analyze the environment. The objective of environmental analysis is the identification of constraints, which may be spelled out as either internal or external limitation. So, define ko muna po yung constraint. Ano po siya? Limitation or restriction. Yun po ibig sabihin niya. Then, makapalo po naman dito sa analyze the environment is components of the environment, internal and external. Sa figure 2.1 po, sa flowchart po na to. Sa internal po, nakapalo po yung organizational aspects, marketing aspects, personal aspects, production aspects, financial aspects. Tapos, yun po, dito naman pupapasok yung mga ano, external environment bago mag-come up ng decision. Sa external naman po, madami din pong factor tulad ng government, labor union, supplier, banks, public, competitor, engineers, client, and for the third one, develop viable alternatives. Number 1 po, prepared a list of alternative solution, determine the viability of each solution, revise the list by striking out which are not viable.
Para naman po sa pang-apat, evaluate alternatives. An evaluation of a remaining alternative is necessary. Proper evaluation make choosing the right solution less difficult. Sabi po ni Sauder, each alternative must be analyzed and evaluated in terms of its value, cost, risk, and risk characteristic po. Doon naman, teka, para naman po maging maayos yung pag-evaluate, dapat nga po isang alang-alang yung ano, yung value, cost, at risk po. Ano ba yung value? For example po, yung value po, nag-profit ka ng 10 million per year, bali yung nire-report mo na siya as benefits na matatanggap mo. Bali sa cost naman po, naka-classify po siya sa tatlo. Out of pocket cost po. Ibig sabihin po, may sarili ka ng pera na parang pinang-invest mo na siya. Example po, 100 million for a construction facilities po. Doon naman po sa opportunity cost naman po, example po, opportunity to earn interest of a 2 million per year if a money is invested po. Sa last naman po, follow-on cost. Example po, 3 million per year para po sa maintenance ng facilities. Tapos na tayo sa value at sa cost. Dito naman tayo sa risk. Example po ng risk po, the probability of a net profit of a 10 million is a 10% lang. Then may option ka na 5 million profit pero 80 probability na magsasucess. Bali, kung ikaw mag-release, doon ka na sa may mataas na chance na mag-success. Doon ka na sa 80%. Then next slide please. Make a choice. Choice. Making refers to the process of selecting among alternative representing potential solution to a problem. To make the selection process easier, the alternatives can be ranked from the best to the worst based on the some factor like benefit, cost, or risk. Yun nga, pwede mo siyang i-rank from the best to worst based dun nga sa factor na nabanggit ko kanina, yung value, cost, tsaka risk para mapadali yung pagpili mo ng solution nga po. Next slide po. Implement decision. Implementation refers to a carrying out the decision to the objective that will be achieved. To make implementation effective, a plan must be devised. Yun nga, pagkatapos mo mamili ng choice, susunod na dyan yung pag-implement. Pag-implement nito para yung objective nung una pa lamang is ma-achieve. At parang yung sinabi dyan, to make implementation effective, dapat may plano ka, di yung walang plano. Dapat meron. Sa pang-pito po, evaluate the adapt decision result po. Bali sa feedback po, ito po yung nire-require ng to check the each stage of the process po. Bali, nagkakaroon po ng feedback yung mismong group kung nagmimit ba yung the right criteria para hindi nawawala po yung mismong goal po or objective na originally naka-specified po. Doon po naman po sa control, nasabi po dyan na na dapat yung action mo is nakaangkop po sa pina-perform mo, yung match po dun sa goals na nakaset mo. Next slide po. Approaches in a solving problem, quantitative and qualitative evaluation po. Quantitative. Based on statistical analysis of collected data, numerical basis for decision making, effective of decision on stakeholder and their response, investment appraisal, break-even analysis, market research, self-forecasting. In short po, bali yung quantitative po, bali numerical basis po siya for decision making po. Halimbawa po, sa mismong research po namin, sa thesis po namin, nag-consider po kami sa dami ng ball po na ilalagay namin sa aming ball mill po. Kung ano ba yung nararapat na madami for the better efficiency po. Then next slide po. Sa qualitative naman is based on many algorithm like type and quality of data, factors that influence collected data, is assessment, more in-depth evaluation of information taking into account all possible factors that affect a given scenario, that not just a numerical data value to reach a decision. Bali, doon naman po sa qualitative naman po, this term refers to the evaluation of alternative using subjective. Ginagamitan nga po ng subjective judgment nga po. Sinabi nga po ni Stevenson na state that managers tend to use the qualitative approach when number one, problem is a fairly simple. Number two po, the problem is a familiar. Then yung number three po is the cost involved is not a great. Then yung last po is immediate decision are needed po. Bali yun po yung ginagamitan ng qualitative decision making po. Thank you po.
Next naman po is yung quantitative models for decision making. So yung una po is yung linear programming. Helps in maximizing an objective under limited resources. It helps in utilizing a resource or constraint to its maximum potential. So sa linear programming po, minamaximize yung limited resources to solve the problem or make the decision. So usually ginagamit lang po ito kapag obvious na yung magiging result ng napiling solution. So next. Probability decision theory lies in the premise that we can only predict the probability of an outcome. In other words, we cannot always accurately predict the exact outcome of any course of action. So dito naman po is, unlike sa linear programming, dito hindi kayang i-predict yung outcome, kaya probability lang ang kayang i-obtain under the available resources. Next po. Next, yung game theory. Simulates rivalries or conflicts between businesses as a game. The aim of managers under this technique is to find ways of gaining at the expense of their rivals. So decision-making relies on their rivals. Dito yung mga managers, magdedesisyon sila base sa kung paano nila matatalo yung mga kakompetensya nila. So for example, sa pagbili ng sabon, So, gawin kong example yung sa Dove. So, yung Dove meron siyang moisturizing ingredient kaya hindi siya nakaka-dry ng balat kapag ginagamit. So, ikaw as competitor, paano mo ba matatalo yung Dove or paano mo mapapaswitch dun sa sabon mo yung mga Dove user? So, pwede mong i-adopt yung moisturizing na parang characteristic tapos mag-add ka, for example, whitening din siya at the same time moisturizing. So parang ganun. Yung decision making or yung decision na gagawin mo is para matalo mo yung mga kakompetensya mo. Next. Queuing theory. The aim of this theory is to minimize such waiting periods and also reduce investments on such expenses. So, eto naman, nagpo-focus siya on how to reduce the waiting time or para ma-reduce yung pagkapunta ng investments sa inventories. So, yung example dito, sometimes a manufacturing company might gather a stock of unsold goods due to irregular demands. So, mas papasimplahin ko yung example. For example, sa department store, bumili ng 100 pairs of shoes sa supplier yung may-ari. Nagkataon na hindi in demand kaya ang tagal naka-stock ng mga nabili niya and ang tagal din ng return of investment. Sa queuing theory, managers will plan paano may iwasan yung mga ganitong sitwasyon. Next. The simulation. The simulation technique observes various outcomes under hypothetical or artificial settings. Managers try to understand how their decision will work out under diverse circumstances. So yung managers will evaluate the outcome hypothetically. Hindi 100% accurate lalo na pag limited lang ang resources. However, might improve. Depends kung paano i-execute yung gagawin na parang experiment. So basically, sa simulation, gagawa sila ng models na pwedeng mag-represent ng real-life problems. Next po. Network techniques. Complex activities often require concentrated efforts by personnel in order to avoid wastage of time, energy, and money. So this technique aims to solve this by creating strong network structures for work. So dito naman, kung masyado ng complex yung isang task, managers will try to distribute the work sa iba't ibang tao or sa iba't ibang team. Hindi lang para makasave ng time, energy, and money, para din ma-monitor yung mga task at the same time by different team leaders kung saan siya i-assign nung manager para hindi lang sa manager yung burden. So network techniques parang literal na na mai-compare siya sa networking. Kasi, for example, yung manager yung pinaka-head and then meron siyang mga parang galamay or yun yung pinaka-team leader. And then yung team leader na yung mag-distribute ng trabaho dun sa mga tao niya. So, yung pagmo-monitor, yung manager, ang imo-monitor lang niya is yung mga team leader. And then yung team leader, sila na yung bahala sa mga tao nila. Para hindi lang yung manager yung nagmo-monitor ng lahat. Next po. So, yung next topic po is functions of management and then yung under functions of management, planning. For the presentation outline, yung una po is nature and definition of planning, planning at various management levels, and the planning process. Next. Yung pang-apat po is types of plans, parts of various functional area plan, parts of the strategic plan. Next. And yung making planning effective. Next po.
So, yung una, planning. So, kung tayo ay magmamanage ng isang organization, malaking bagay ang makakonstitute ng planning sa future ng organization na yun. So, sa planning, dito natin i-analyze yung mga situations na makakatulong sa atin for effective decision making. So, para magawasan yung mistakes natin in decision making, planning is undertaken. So, una, i-define natin yung word na plan. So, plan is the output of planning which provides a methodological way of achieving desired results. It serves as a useful guide in implementing activities. So, Yun nga, yung plan is parang output siya ng planning, which is yung process na paggawa natin ng mga methodological way para ma-achieve yung desired results natin. So, magbigay tayo ng sample situation of the difficulties of not having a plan. So, halimbawa, yung management ng isang engineering firm ay nangangailangang mag-hire ng 3 employees. Yung manager ay nag-invite ng applicants, tapos yung mga applicants na yun, syempre, dumadaan sila sa screening hanggang sa ma-hire na nila yung 3 kailangan nila na yun. So, nung nakita doon sa hiring expense report nila, lumabas na yung expenses nila ay halos doble ng expenses ng ibang firms in hiring the same number of employees. So, ba't ganun? Sa inquiry na ginawa nila, lumabas na yung manager ay nag-commit in some error of judgment or in short, decision making. So, kung saan gumamit siya ng expensive layout in newspaper, samantalang pwede naman gumamit ng simple advertisement or message lang, ganun. So, nakita rin na nagkulang yung nagkulang ng hiring plan ng management na nag-contribute din sa pagtaas ng hiring expenses ng management na yun. So, ngayon doon tayo sa planning. Next. So, ano nga ba yung planning? So, yung planning is defined in various ways which are designed to suit specific purposes. So, ito yung unang definition ng planning. Planning refers to the management function that involves anticipating future trends and determining the best strategies and tactics to achieve organizational objectives. So, yung pangalawang definition ng planning, planning is the selection and sequential ordering of tasks required to achieve an organizational goal. So, next, planning is deciding what will be done, who will do it, where, when, and how it will be done, and the standards to which it will be done. At ang huling definition ng planning ay is selecting the best course of action so that the desired result may be achieved. So next, planning at various management levels. So merong tatlong types of planning. Yung una, strategic, pangalawa, intermediate, at yung pangatlo, operational. So sa strategic planning, refers to the process of determining the major goals of the organization and policies and strategies for obtaining and using resources to achieve those goals. Next, so sa intermediate naman, it refers to the process of determining the contribution that subunits can make with the allocated resources. At yung huli, operational planning refers to the process of determining how specific tasks can best be accomplished on time with available resources. So, meron akong ginawa na merong hierarchy yung planning. Next po. Merong hierarchy yung planning which is the top management or yung CEO, vice president, general manager, and division heads, which is responsible for strategic planning. So, etong strategic planning, meron siyang 1 to 10 years planning horizon or yung kung gaano tinatagal yung planning ng management na yon. So, sa pangalawa, middle management, dito naman nakapaloob yung mga functional managers, product line managers, at department heads. So, sila yung responsible for intermediate planning na mayroong 6 months to 2 years of planning horizon. At yung pangatlo naman ay yung lower management. Dito nakapaloob yung mga unit managers, first line supervisors na responsible for operational planning na mayroong 1 to 1 year of planning horizon. So ito yung isang example next ng isang plan. So, yung una, sa President General Manager or sila yung responsible for strategic planning. Halimbawa, sa factory, dito ginagawa yung intense planning, yung mga project design. Dito din ina-analyze or tinitingnan yung magiging future ng project na yun at yung mga possibilities kung ano yung mga kakaharapin nilang problema para dun sa project na gagawin nila bago nila i-approve yun. So, sa pangalawa naman, dito nakapaloob yung marketing manager, production manager, finance manager, at personal manager na responsible naman sa intermediate planning. So, dito nakapaloob yung financing, yung mga liquidity, tas dito ina-outsource yung mga materials, galing sa iba't ibang suppliers at dito mismo kinoconstruct itong project. Dito nila pinapakana yan. So, yung panghuli naman sa lower management, so dito nakapalog yung industrial engineering manager, factor manager, quality control manager na nakapalog na under naman sa production manager. So dito naman sila yung responsible for operational planning na dito na dito yung nanggagaling yung mga tauhan, yung mga human resources, tas sila yung nagpapatakbo or nag-ooperate ng mismong project na yun, or sabihin na natin sila yung mga factory workers, ganun. Tas next po.
So next po is the planning process. So first po sa planning process is setting organizational, divisional, or unit goals. So the first task is to provide a sense of direction to his firm if he is the chief executive, to his division if he heads a division, or to his unit if he is a supervisor. So the setting of goals provide an answer to the said concern. Goals may be defined as the precise statement of results sought, quantified in time and magnitude where possible. So identifying of desired outcomes or result in very specific ways and providing a sense of direction to the firm is very essential po. Dapat alam natin kung saan tayo pupunta, specific po tayo sa ating mga goals para po alam po natin pag na-achieve na po natin ito. And matatrack din po natin kung gano'n na po tayo kalayo sa starting point po natin. Number 2 po is developing strategies or tactics to reach goals. After determining the goal, the next task is to devise some means to realize them. So the ways to realize goals are called strategies, and this will be the concern of top management. The middle and lower management will adopt their own tactics to implement their plans, katulad po na nakita po natin sa hierarchy sa planning po. And a strategy may be defined as a course of action aimed at ensuring the organization will achieve its objective. A tactic naman po is a short-term action taken by the management to adjust to negative or external. They are formulated and implemented in support of the firm strategies. And number 3 po is determine resources needed. So when the strategies or tactics have been devised, the manager will then determine human and non-human resources required by such strategies or tactics. To satisfy the strategic requirements, a general statement of needed resources will suffice. Too much resource in terms of either quality or quantity will be wasteful. Too little will mean loss of opportunities for maximizing income. So, dapat po pag nade-determine tayo ng resource na kailangan po natin, saktong-sakto lang po dahil ayaw naman po natin na ma-waste po yung mga sobra nating resource or ma-short naman po tayo sa income po pag tinipid naman po natin yung resources natin. And last po, sa planning process is setting standard. Standard may be defined as a quantitative or qualitative measuring device designed to help monitor the performance of people, capital goods, or processes. So pag meron po tayong standard, mas makikita po natin and mas mamanipulate po natin kung gaano po kaganda yung magiging performance po ng mga tao natin and yung magiging output po ng ating mga capital goods and processes. So the standards for measuring performance may be set at the planning stage. When actual performance does not match with the planned performance, corrections may be made or reinforcements given. So next po is
Next is types of plans. Meron tayong four major types of plans. Hierarchical plans, standing or ongoing plans, single-use plans, and contingency plans. Hierarchical plans. With the hierarchical, so by level, na-discuss sa previous reporter kay Kim. Na-discuss niya yung planning at various management levels. Napansin niya dito lang sila yung strategic plans, administrative plans, and operational plans. So, nabanggit ni Kim kung sino yung specific workers sa bawat planning. Strategic plans, ang goal sa strategic plans is yung long-term goal ng isang organization. Siya yung isasabing framework para dun sa lower level plans, which is yung administrative plans and operational plans. Sa administrative plans, pwede siyang consider as yung by department. While yung operational plans naman is yung smaller unit. Interdependent yung tatlong levels kasi yung administrative plans ay shorter term na plan para ma-achieve mo yung goal mo sa strategic plans. While yung operational plans naman, pwede siyang day-to-day plans or kaya naman yung sa nabanggit ni Kim kanina ay week or pwedeng magtagal ng 1 month. Next. Okay, next na major type is yung single-use plan. So, sa term na single use, so isang beses lang siya na pwedeng gamitin. Example is yung budget plan. Hindi mo pwedeng ulitin yung paggamit sa isang budget plan dahil may bawat project may iba't ibang pinagkakagastusan at bawat project nagbabago yung presyo. Next is yung ongoing or standing plans. Ongoing or standing plans ay yung mga plano na hindi, na pwede siyang mabago. Long term, ongoing lang siya, sinusunod. Parang, example is yung roles, policy, and procedures. Sa yung manager, pwedeng maging problema niya sa workmates niya or sa under niyang employees ay tardiness. So, pwedeng isama sa rules or policy na team niya na bawal malate sa kanila. So, kada makaka-encounter siya ng bagong problem sa team niya, pwedeng baguhin yung rule nila. Pero same goal pa rin na para siya dun sa ikabubuti nung organization nila. Next. Okay, contingency plans. Siguro familiar na kayo dun sa contingency plans. Ginagamit siya as layman's term, backup plan. If in case na hindi nag-work yung una mong plano, meron kang plan B. If merong problema bigla or kaya merong circumstances na hindi mo pwedeng piliin yung nauna mong choice. Meron kang plano para magtuloy lang yung goal nyo. Next.
Hello? Parts of functional area plan. Next slide, please. Functional area plan. Ano ba yung functional area plan? It is a total of all those activities which are performed in an organization to achieve its objectives. Ito yung mga sinasagawa ng isang organization para ma-achieve yung objectives nila. A guide on how a certain organization will be shaped and managed. Nagsisilbing guide to kung paano patatakbuhin ng isang organization. There are 4 major functional area plan: marketing plan, production plan, financial plan, human resource plan, which I'll be explaining sa following slides. Next, please. Marketing plan. Marketing is the total system of interacting business activities designed to plan, price, promote, and distribute satisfying products and services to present to potential customers. Sa marketing plan, nandito yung pagplaplano tungkol sa price, promotion, and distribution. It's a process of getting people interested sa product or services na ino-offer mo. The various marketing activities may be stated as under product planning. This includes all decisions regarding sa product: production, sales of products, packaging, labeling, warranties, guarantees, branding, and product mix. If there's a well-defined product plan, mas mamimit yung consumer needs and wants, so marireach natin yung profit goals. Pricing. This involves the determination of an exchange price at which the buyer and seller perceive optimum value for a good or service. Price is not always paid by money, pwede din barter. The exchange of goods or services to other goods or services. It is the oldest form of exchange. Next is physical distribution. Sa physical distribution, nandito yung pagplan, implement and pagcontrol ng physical flows ng goods from place of production to the place of end use. It is also responsible sa pagde-deliver sa customer on wanted time and at minimum cost. Next is promotion. This involves all communication activities that informs potential customers about the existence of goods, services, or ideas and persuades them to purchase. Next slide. Production plan. As far as the manufacturing organization is concerned, production is a core function. The entire production operations are to be planned, organized, directed, coordinated, and controlled. The production activities encompass the following. Product designing. It is a process of creating a new product to be sold by a business to its customers. This is identifying an opportunity. Alamin muna kung ano yung problema, develop a solution to the problem, and validate the solution with the real users. Acquisition of materials. This includes gathering of the raw materials that will be used in the product. Next is storage of materials. This is also included dahil proper storage of materials are essential in maintaining functional office operations. Next is planning and controlling of factory operations. This is a strategy to plan a chain of operations that supports manufacturers to be at the right place at the right time. It helps them achieve the most efficiency from their sources. Next is repairs and maintenance. This is a preventive and routine upkeep and preservation or restoration of an existing element, space, building, or facility. Next is inventory and quality control. Inventory deals with the complete list of items, properties, goods in stock, or other contents of certain building. While quality control ensures na namimit yung quality metrics by measuring the levels and quality of output. Last is research and development. Research and develop. Companies undertake to innovate and introduce new products and services. Next slide. Financial plan. The main focus of a financial plan is to manage financial resources. A financial plan is concerned with managerial decisions of acquisitions and financing of long-term and short-term credit for the business enterprise. It compromises the following. First is estimation of funds required for both long-term and short-term needs of business. Second is calculation of cost of capital. This is a calculation of the return a company needs to achieve in order to justify the cost of a capital project, kagaya po ng pagbili ng new equipment or pagpapatayo ng bagong building. Next is mobilization of funds. Mobilization funding provides the capital needed to cover costs before work begins on a project or prior to invoicing. Next is determining capital structure. It is the goal of company management to find the ideal mix of debt and equity, also referred to as the optimal capital structure to finance operations. Next is determining the level of leverage. It is the determination of the level of leverage or a leverage ratio is any of the several financial measurements that look at how much capital comes in the form of debt or assesses the ability of a company to meet its financial obligations. Lastly is the managing current assets. This is managing or handling the current assets a company has. Assets can be in forms of cash, land, equipment, and etc. Next, please. The last plan is human resource plan. This involves planning, organization, and controlling the procurement, development, compensation, and maintenance of human resources in an enterprise. It consists of the following areas: Manpower planning, ito po yung process ng pagde-decide kung gaano po karaming tao yung kailangan for particular job or project. Manpower planning consists of putting the right number and right kind of people in the right place. Next is recruitment and selecting. Recruitment is the process of attracting qualified candidates for a role or for a job role. Yung selection naman po ay identifying and selecting the right candidate na suitable sa certain job. Next is job analysis. This refers to the systematic process ng pagko-collect ng information about a specific job, including skill requirements, roles, and their responsibilities. Next po is training and development of manpower. The objective of training and development of manpower is to enhance and develop the employee skills, pati na rin po yung behavior and their expertise by putting them into learning new techniques of doing work. Lastly is performance appraisal. Ito naman yung regular review ng employees' job performance and yung overall contribution nila sa company. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Parts of strategic plan. First one is defining one's vision. A statement that may serve as guide for selecting a current or future path. It functions as the compass that can be a basis for the decisions that an individual or a group is going to make. An example of this is yung sa Philippine Society of Mechanical Engineers. Ang vision po nila is the ultimate turnover of Philippines industrialization and the steward of the development of the mechanical engineering profession. Next slide po. Create your mission. Talks about how you will execute your steps in order to achieve your vision. Answers questions such as what do we do, whom do we serve, and how do we serve them. An example, your mission will serve as a framework that will help you decide if it is aligned with the ideals or vision that you chose to pursue even before you started something or you do. Wag na po tayo lumayo. An example of this is the SME. Ang mission po nila is professionalism service. As an example of that is yung ginawa nila dati na pag-analyze nung sa effectiveness nung sa patient sa paglaban ng COVID-19. Motivation. Ito din din naman sa mga seminars na kinakonduct po nila and excellence. Next slide. Short-term goals focuses on the day-to-day basis. It includes the group or an individual's goal within a time frame. Those time frame po is ang maximum po is 12 months. It can create more systematic approach toward the mission and vision and may serve as goalposts to clearly track your progress. Example of these short-term goals are reducing overhead. Sa companies po is reducing overheads, increasing employees quota and little, increasing the company's production. Next. SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strength. It is an important aspect that helps on increasing your self-awareness. Weakness. It will give you a clear understanding of the things that you might avoid or the areas that you should improve. This can also be an asset if you learn to harness those weaknesses. It can be achieved when you turn those forces which are pushing you from pulling up ahead into a force that may push you from behind in order to advance. Example of this is in a financing company, having a fierce competitor with more resources can be your booster. Typical huge companies tends to be a household name, focusing a small business target clientele, such as those who are also in average businesses. They are somewhat comforted na yung small company mo na yun ay nagsimula katulad ng small business nila na yun. Next slide po. Ay, joke lang. Opportunities, it gives the employees or employer a better sense of getting better or stuck at something that may present in front of them. Threats, it is important to know the threats that are present in order to deal with them accordingly. Next po. Long-term goals and objectives. Unlike the short-term goals, it focuses on the milestone that an individual or company that may achieve in span of year or years. It can also be a guide if a big move can be already being executed with the current state of the company. Next topic.
So in making an effective planning, we must identify the barriers to planning. So numerous impediments can obstruct successful planning. So to ensure that plans are effective and produce the desired results, managers must identify and overcome potential barriers. So the following are some of the most common barriers to successful planning. So next slide. So number one is inability to plan or inadequate planning. Managers do not naturally possesses the ability to plan. So certain managers are ineffective planners due to lack of experience, education, and or ability. So others, on the other hand, may have never been taught how to plan. When these two types of managers take time to plan, they may be unfamiliar with the process of planning. So ang nagiging barriers po dito ay may mga managers na hindi ganun kalawak yung experience when it comes to planning and also yung background ng education nila kung hindi ganun kalawak yung education nila doon sa at gusto nilang gawin when it comes to planning. So next slide. So lack of commitment to planning process. So the process of planning, of developing a plan is time consuming. It is much easier for a manager to claim that he or she lacks the time necessary to complete the requirements planning process than it is to actually devote the time necessary to developing a plan. So syempre, the latter saves them more time in the long run. So another reason for inaction could be fear or failure. As a result, managers may choose to participate in planning process in a minimal or non-existent manner. So, overthinking na mali ang paggawa ng isang manager and to feel ashamed sa isang bagay na hindi napaghandaan na will lead to failure. So, kapag nagkaroon ng failure, magkakaroon din ng fear para sumubok ulit. So, next slide. Next slide is inferior information. So facts are out of date, poor of quality, or insufficient in quantity can create significant planning obstacles. So no matter how well managers plan, if they do so on the basis of incomplete information, their plans are likely to fail. So ano ibig sabihin ng inferior? So ibig sabihin nito in definition is of little or less importance or value ng isang bagay or ng isang information. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na ito pwedeng gamitin ang inferior information that cannot support claims, lalo na kapag outdated ang information. So, example, sa paggawa ng RRLs na ang advice ay hindi na gumamit ng mga RRLs na yung journals ay from 2003 and lower na versions. So, syempre, may mga latest na din na mga journals and thesis. So, yun dapat yung maging basis natin para sa mas effective na planning. And syempre, hindi siya manggagaling sa mga website na doubtful and may sources at hearsay lang yung basehan. So, yung mga website dapat ay credible at pinagbabasehan talaga ng lahat. So, next slide. The next slide is focusing on the present at the expense of the future. So failure to consider the long-term effects of a plan because of emphasis or short-term problems may lead to trouble in preparing for the future. Managers should try to keep keep the big picture, long-term goals in mind in developing their plan. So, ibig sabihin lang, if ang isang manager ay nag-plan lang, tapos ang goal niya lang is short-term, syempre, yung short-term goals lang yung ma-achieve. What if dapat lawakan natin yung planning natin? What if hindi siya short-term lang? Dapat long-term din na hindi siya masasayang kasi kung short-term lang siya, specific time lang yung magagaod. And syempre, hindi siya ganun ka-effective para sa iba. So, next slide. Too much reliance on the organization's planning department. So, numerous business have a department of planning or a planning and development team. These departments conduct research, develop models, and forecast possible outcomes, but they do not carry out plans. So the result of the planning department are intended to aid in planning and should be used solely for that purpose. The manager is still responsible for developing the plan. So, ibig sabihin, syempre, kahit na may kaakibat tayo or may nakaalalay na organization sa planning natin or may kadikit tayo na department para sa ng manager, ay syempre, yung manager nitong buong project ay responsible pa rin for developing itself. Kasi siya yung pinaka-head ng management, so syempre dapat yung accountability ay nasa kanya. And next slide. So, concentrating on controllable variables. Managers may find themselves focusing exclusively on the things and events within their control, such as new product development, while overlooking external factors such as weak economy. One possible explanation is that managers exhibit a strong preference for the known and aversion to the unknown. So, ibig sabihin lang ay nag-focus sila masyado sa new product development, pero yung mga na-develop nilang products noon ay dapat i-assess din nila kung ano dapat doon yung i-improve, kung ano ba yung dapat sinuggest ni customer na ganito yung improvement, ganyan. Kasi over the years ng example na lang need natin dito ay yung siguro sa iPhone, yung sa development ng Apple ay extreme, lalo na over time ay nagbabago siya. Pero, syempre, kakakibat din ito yung mga suggestions ng mga customers na what if lagyan ng ganito, what if lagyan ng ganyan. Syempre, dapat makinig tayo sa demands ng customers. And the good news is that each of these obstacles is surmountable. To plan successfully, managers must communicate effectively, gather accurate information, and enlist the assistance of others. So, that's it lang po, and thank you for listening po.